Hello everyone, Hermano here. Welcome to the channel again. So today I'm going to install Arch Linux with our visual guide on a MBR BIOS system. So if you have an older laptop or an older desktop with a little bit less powerful hardware and you would like to try Arch Linux, this is the installation for you. I'm going to install on this Arch Linux Xfce as a desktop environment because it requires less resources from the system, and I'll say it's optimal for older hardware. So this is an MBR BIOS system. It's an older laptop I have here with 256 gigabyte hard drive, and we are going to install here Arch Linux a little differently because it's a MBR system. So let's get started. You would have to download the Arch Linux ISO from the website and burn it to your USB stick and boot up from there. And I'll meet you here at the login prompt. And we are ready to install. So the first thing we want to do is to check for an internet connection. Again, I have plugged in here my Ethernet cable because it's faster to install. So if I type in now IP space A, I have an IP ending with 122. If you would like to use Wi-Fi, you would type in Wi-Fi-menu. And when you hit enter, you will be asked to select your network. You can enter your password and you will have an IP as well. So now that we have an IP, we need to synchronize the time with the internet. So to do this, we'll type in time date ctl set-ntp true and hit enter. And there you go. I'll clean up the terminal. And now we can take care of our disk. So let me type in lsblk because I need to see the name of my disk. So in my case, it's a 256 gigabyte hard drive and its name is SDA. Yours might be different, so you will have to adjust then this information accordingly to your disk. So for this installation, I'm going to use cfdisk as a partitioning tool. So I'll type in cfdisk and then the device name, so /dev for device, /SDA, because that's the device name, and hit enter. So first thing, I'm asked to select the label, and because this is an MBR system, I'm going to select DOS. So I scroll down with the arrow and hit enter. And I'm going to create here two partitions. One will be the swap partition, and the other one will be our root or home partition. I don't need to create an EFI partition because this is not a UEFI system. So I'm here on new, so I'll just hit new here with my enter key. So I want to create first a swap partition, and I want this to be 4 gigabytes. So I'll type in 4 GB and hit enter. And it's a primary partition, so I'll just hit enter. And there you go. Now we need to change the file type. So I'll scroll to the right to type and hit enter. And I'll select here the number 82, which is Linux swap, and hit enter. Then I move down to the free space because I need to create the second partition, and I'll hit enter. And for this partition, I'm going to accept the defaults because I want this partition to be the rest of the disk. So I'll just hit enter. And yes, it's a primary partition, so I'll just hit enter here. And I see the type is Linux. That's fine. I don't need to change this. So I'll move to the right here and hit right with the enter key and type in yes, because I want to write the changes to the disk, and hit enter. So now we are done. So we'll move to the left to quit and hit enter. And I'll clean up the terminal again. I'll type lsblk to confirm that our partitions are there, and they are indeed. SDA1, it's about 4 gigabytes, and SDA2, it's around 252 gigabytes. Perfect. Now we partition the disk, now we need to format it. So we don't format the swap partition, we just format the root home partition. So to do this, we'll type in mkfs for makefile system, then the dot, and then it's an ext4 file type. So we'll type in ext4, then a space, and then the partition name. So /dev /sda2, and hit enter. So I clean up the terminal. So let's move to the swap partition. We don't need to format the swap partition, but we just need to make it and activate it. So first, let's make the swap partition by typing in mkswap, and then the partition name, so /dev /sda1. You remember sda1, it's our swap partition, and hit enter. And then we'll activate it by typing in swap on, and then again the partition name, so /dev /sda1, and hit enter. and the swap partition is done. So I clean up the terminal, and now we can mount the partitions. So we just need to mount actually the root partition. And to do this, we'll type in mount / the partition name dev /sda2, then a space, and we're going to mount this to the /mount directory in the system that we are going to install. And we'll just hit enter. And there you go. If I'll type in now lsblk, you'll see we have our root partition mounted into the mount directory, and the swap partition doesn't have any mount points, so it's just a swap partition. So I clean up the terminal, and we can move to the next step, which is installing the base system. So for that, I will type in pacstrap, and it's going to be under the mount directory. This is the installation directory. And the packages I want to install are base, linux, linux-firmware, and I'll install also editor, nano in my case, because I'm going to need it anyway later. And then when I'm ready, just hit enter. So it's going to take a moment to download and install everything, and I'll be back in a second. So the packages are installed. So let me clean up the terminal, and we can move on to the next point, which is generating the fstab file. The fstab file is the file where all our mount points are included, and the swap partition as well. So we need to type in gen fstab for generate fstab -U and /mount, because this is where the information is at the moment. And we want to append this or create a new file under /mount /etc/fstab and hit enter. Now, if we produce the content of this file, we'll see what's in there. So we'll type in shortly cat /mount /etc/fstab. And as you can see, we have our root partition there, file type Xfce4, and our swap. So everything is configured correctly. So I clean up the terminal, and now we can enter the installation and leave the installer by typing in arch-root and then /mount and hit enter. Now you see we entered the installation, the login prompt changed, and now we can take care of our time zone. So we'll type in for this ln-user/share/zone-info/Europe. You have to change this accordingly to your time zone, and /Zurich, this is the city closest to me, and then a space, and then /etc/local time. So basically we are saying we create a link between our time zone and the local time file, and then hit enter. And now we need to synchronize the hardware clock to the system clock. So we'll type in hwclock space --sys to hc, system to hardware clock, and hit enter. And now we can create our locales. So to do this, we'll use nano, our editor. We'll type in nano /etc/locale.gen and hit enter. You will scroll down here until you find the locales you are looking for. In my case, it's English US. And there are two of those, so I'll choose the one which has UTF-8 and uncomment this, deleting the hashtag, and then hit Ctrl-O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. Now we need to generate the locale, so we'll type in locale-gen and hit enter. And now we need to also complete the locale.conf file, so we'll type in nano /etc/locale.conf and hit enter. And we'll type in this string here, in my case, lang as language, equal, and then the string you choose before. So en in my case, _us.utf-8. And then again, Ctrl-O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. Now we can move on to the next point. So I'm going to clean up the terminal again, and let's go to the host name. So we'll type in nano /etc/hostname and hit enter. You can give a name to your machine here, basically. I'll just choose Arch very simply, and then hit again Ctrl-O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. And now we can take care of the hosts file. So we'll type in nano /etc/hosts and hit enter. Move down to the empty space and type in these lines 127.0.0.1 tab localhost. Next line, ::1, tab localhost again. And on the last line, 127.0.1.1, a tab, and then the host name. So in my case, arch.local domain, and then a tab again, and the host name again. So in my case, arch. You'll change this accordingly. And then Control O and enter to save the file, and Control X to exit the editor. Now we can create the password for the root user. So we'll type in passwd and hit enter and type a new password and retype it. And there you go. So now is the time to install our bootloader and some other packages. So let me first clean up the terminal, and I'll type in pacman, which is the package manager for Arch Linux, -S. And the first package I want to install is grub, our boot manager. And then some networking tools as well, which I'll need later. So the first one is network manager. Then we have network-manager-applet. We have dialog. We have wireless_tools. We have WPA_supplicant. We have OS-prober. We have mtools. We have DOS, FS tools. And uninstall also two development packages, which sooner or later I'll need anyway. So one is base-devel, and the other one is linux-headers. So stop the video if you need to. Make sure that everything is written correctly, and when you're ready, you just hit enter and accept the defaults by hitting enter. And then proceed with installation. So I'll just hit enter. And it's going to take a moment again to download and install everything. So I'll be back when it's done. So there you go. The installation is done. We need now to install the bootloader. So let me clean up the terminal. And to install the bootloader, we'll type in grub-install space --target. So this is an MBR BIOS system. So here the target will be different. It's going to be equal to i386-PC. And then we have to specify where to install the bootloader. So this is not a UEFI system, so we don't have actually a boot directory where to install this. We'll just need to install this on the first sector of the disk, and for that we are just going to enter the name of the disk we have in our system. So in my case it's /dev/SDA. You will change this accordingly to your disk, and then when you're ready, you just hit enter. And now this is done, so we need to generate the grub configuration file. So we'll type in grub-mkconfig to make configuration -o, and it's going to be under the /boot/grub, and the file is grub.cfg, and you hit enter. And there you go. The bootloader is now installed. So the next step is to exit the installation and return to the installer. So for that, we just type in exit very simply. And now we need to unmount the partitions. So we'll type in umount-a. And we get some errors here. That's fine. And now we need to reboot the system. So we'll type in reboot. And if everything went well, you will be greeted by the grub bootloader, and you will be able to choose to enter your new installation there. So go ahead, reboot your system, enter the installation, log in with your root user and the password we just created, and I'll meet you back then at the login prompt. So there you go, the installation was successful. I put it in my installation here, and now we can proceed to the next point, which is activating internet. Otherwise, we won't be able to go further with the installation. So the first thing we need to do is to type in systemctl start network manager with capital N and capital M, and hit enter. Now, if you have an Ethernet cable attached, and if I type in now IP space A, I have already an IP. If you have Wi-Fi, you will type in now NMTUI, and when you hit enter, you can go to activate a connection. You'll see a list of networks here. You can then select yours and enter the password, and you will be connected. So I don't need to do this because I have an Ethernet cable, so I'll go back. And the last step is to enable Network Manager so that the next time we start the machine, it's going to be started automatically. So to do this, we'll type in systemctl enable network manager, again with capital N and capital M, and hit enter. Perfect. So I'll clean up the terminal and we can move to the next point, which is creating a new user, because you don't want to use the system with the root user all the time. So to do this, I'll type in user add space -m capital G for the group, and it's going to be the wheel group. Has to do with the sudo. We'll change this later. And then the username, in my case, my name, and hit enter. Now we need to give the user also a password. So we'll type in passwd and then the username and type the new password. And that's done. Now we need to give the user also sudo powers. So to do this, we'll type in editor, all in capital letters, equal nano. And the file we need to edit is sudo, and hit enter. So we need to scroll down here until we find the wheel group we talked about before. And you have to be careful, there are two of those. And the one you want to choose is the first one, which says all equal all. And you want to uncomment this line. And then you hit Control O and enter to save the file, and Control X to exit the editor. And so I clean up the terminal. And we can move to the next point, which is installing the graphics. So we have basically three scenarios here. One is if you have an Intel card, an AMD card, or an NVIDIA card. So I have an Intel card in my old laptop here. So to install the Intel drivers, I'll type in pacman-s, and then the package is Xfce4 Video-Intel. And then I'll hit enter. I proceed with installation by hitting enter. There you go. Now, if you have an AMD card, you would replace Intel with AMD GPU. Then hitting enter, you will proceed with installation like I did for the Intel drivers. And if you have an NVIDIA card, you replace the whole package here. You need two packages to install. One is the NVIDIA package, and the other one is NVIDIA-utils. And then you hit enter and you will proceed with the installation. So once you install the graphics, let me delete this comment here, we can proceed to install the display server. So to do this, we'll type in pacman-s, and the display server is Xorg. And you just hit enter, accept the defaults by hitting enter, proceed with installation by hitting enter. Again, it's going to take a moment here to install everything. There you go. So I'll clean up the terminal. And now we need to install the display manager. So as a desktop environment, I want to install actually Xfce4, which is quite light on resources on hardware. So as a display manager, this time I want to install LXDM, which is a cross-platform display manager. It works basically with all desktop environments. And to install it, I'm going to type in pacman-s LXDM and then hit enter. Accept the default, so I just hit enter. And that was a pretty quick install. So now I clean up the terminal, and we need to activate LXDM so that when we start the machine, it's going to be automatically started. So we'll do this by typing in system ctl enable lxdm.service and hit enter. There you go. Now clean up the terminal, and the last step is to install the desktop environment. In my case, as I said, is Xfce, so I'll type in pacman-s, and the packages I need to install are Xfce4. You have an optional package for the goodies to install some extra programs in Xfce, so that would be Xfce4-goodies. Another package I recommend you to install because it's not installed by default in Xfce is Pulse Audio. And I recommend you to install Pavu Control, which controls the audio mixer, which is not installed by default neither. So it's Pavu Control. And one more package you can install if you want to have user directories like music, pictures, videos, and so on. It's xdg-user-dirs. So this is optional, and I don't actually need to install this, so I'll just delete it. And when you're ready, you just hit enter. Accept the defaults by hitting enter. Again, defaults by hitting enter. And accept the installation by hitting enter. So it's going to take a moment to install everything, and I'll be back when it's done. So the packages are installed. I'm going to clean up the terminal. So now everything is installed. Now we can reboot the machine, and if everything went well, you will be greeted by the grub bootloader again. You can enter your installation there. You will see the LXDM display manager. When you see the display manager window, select Xfce session on the bottom left corner of the window, then enter your password and you will be greeted in the Xfce desktop environment. So I'm going to reboot my machine and I'll meet you back in Xfce. So guys, there you go. We are in the Xfce desktop. The installation was successful. I could see the LXDM display manager. Just remember when you see the login prompt to select on the bottom left of the window the Xfce session and then enter your password and you will be logged in the desktop. Now, first thing I want to do is to check for updates. So I'll open up the terminal, go full screen here and increase the font size a little and type in sudo pacman-s YYU and hit enter. Enter my password here and there's nothing to do, so the system is up to date. So I'll clean up the window here, and this is how to install Arch Linux on a BIOS MBR system with Xfce. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and if you want to see more, make sure you like it by clicking the like button below and subscribe to the channel if you want to be notified of future videos. Subscriptions really helps us out, guys. And if there is anything specific you want me to cover or you have any question, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.